Hey Lions fans, things are getting crazy fast regarding the team's coaches. There's a young coach attracting a lot of attention at an event most people don't even remember, a new voice arriving to shake up an offense that stalled at the wrong moments, and a potential signing that could completely change the way the team functions. All of this has happened and is already stirring up the fans for a reason you didn't expect. Let's start by talking about the promising coach. Alright, let's get into it, because the Lions just made a move that says a lot about how they're planning for the future. Every year, when the Senior Bowl rolls around, fans pay attention to the game, but the NFL isn't really there for the game. The real action is in the practices, where scouts and front offices get an up-close look at prospects, and just as importantly, they get a look at the coaches running those practices. That's why teams love sending rising assistants to mobile. It's basically a public audition. Here's our up-and-coming guy, watch what he can do. And this year, the Lions decided their next man in line is Marquez Tuiasosopo. And that's not some random choice. This dude has a resume that demands attention. Tuiasosopo played quarterback in the NFL for 8 seasons and was a legit Heisman contender back in his Washington days. After that, he spent years developing QBs at major college programs: Washington, UCLA, Cal, Rice, all before Detroit brought him in for his first NFL coaching job ahead of the 2025 season. So the Lions didn't grab a project, they grabbed someone with hands-on experience, credibility, and a real understanding of the position. And here's the part that really matters. The quarterbacks in Detroit already feel his impact. Over the summer, Jared Goff, Kyle Allen, and Hendon Hooker were asked about adding another former NFL QB to the staff, and all three lit up talking about him. They talked about how he explains things differently, the presence he brings into the room, and how quickly he's earned respect internally. Goff in particular mentioned how valuable it is having someone who's actually lived those reads and pressures in real time. So now, Tuiasosopo heads to the Senior Bowl as the quarterback's coach for the American team. And that's huge. Not just for him, but for the Lions' long-term vision. Detroit doesn't send someone to mobile unless they see real potential. This is the kind of opportunity teams give to coaches they think might be running a unit or even calling plays somewhere down the line. If everything goes well in mobile, don't be shocked if his name starts appearing in more conversations around Detroit's offensive future. The Lions are quietly building a pipeline of coaches who actually fit what they want to be, and Tuiasosopo looks like one of the next big pieces. And if that already shakes things up, the next update is even bigger, because Detroit's new offensive leader is bringing a whole different kind of buzz. Now let's talk about the guy who's about to shape the entire identity of this Lions offense. New offensive coordinator Drew Petzing. And look, the more you break down who he is and what he actually does, the more this hire starts to make sense for Detroit. Petzing at his best is all about balance, pounding the rock, forcing defenses to respect play action, and building an offense that stays on schedule instead of constantly trying to win shootouts. And if there's one team built for that style, it's the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff thrives when he's working off a strong run game, and the Lions already have one of the best setups in the league with their backfield and weapons around him. So the marriage here, honestly, it fits cleaner than people expected. But let's address the big talking point, Petzing's time in Arizona. Cardinals fans weren't exactly throwing confetti about his play calling. Some thought he was predictable, some thought he leaned too much on screens and draws in bad moments, and just overall didn't adjust fast enough. And to be fair, there was some truth there. Arizona absolutely struggled in gotta have it downs. Defenses were calling out plays before the snap. When players start openly talking about film study giving them the answers, that's never great. But here's the other side. That Cardinals roster was rough. The offense was not set up to thrive. The line struggled, weapons were limited, and the team was constantly playing from behind. Petzing wasn't the problem, but he definitely wasn't the solution either. What he did show, though, is a clear identity. When things were clicking, his offense could grind clock, wear down defenses, and keep teams honest with layered play action. You give him a legit offensive line and actual skill players, the ceiling looks a lot different. Strengths? Easy. Balanced approach, heavy emphasis on the run, and a play action system that gets receivers open without needing them to win every matchup on their own. When Detroit needs to close out a game in the fourth quarter, Petzing's style is built for that. That's exactly the tempo Dan Campbell loves. Physical, methodical, and tiring for a defense. Weaknesses? Also easy. He can be stubborn. If you force his offense into obvious passing situations, things can get predictable fast. Defenses loading the box? He didn't always adjust. Passing concepts? Not as modern or creative as a lot of today's high-flying systems. And after losing O-line coach Clayton Adams, the Cardinals' run game went downhill, which is a concern considering Petzing's background in that area. Then the million-dollar question, will he keep play-calling duties all season? Dan Campbell has pulled the plug on 2 OCs before, so the leash won't be long. Petzing kept the job the whole year in Arizona because, frankly, the Cardinals didn't have anyone else to take it. Detroit does. If he starts slow or falls into those predictable patterns again, Campbell won't hesitate to step in. But here's something Lions fans might enjoy. Petzing loves tight ends. Loves them. Before injuries wrecked Arizona, he used 12 and 13 personnel more than almost anyone in the league. That means multiple tight ends, versatility, run disguises, and creative play action looks, which fits perfectly with what Detroit is trying to build. So yeah, this hire isn't just a name on a staff list. It's a full identity shift, and Detroit is betting that Petzing learned from everything he struggled with in Arizona. If he did, this offense could take a real step forward. And just when it looked like the coaching shakeup was done, there's one more move on the table. And it could reshape an entire position group in Detroit. And here's where things get even more interesting. The Lions might not be done rating the Cardinals staff. Drew Petzing was the headline hire, sure, but Detroit could be eyeing another key piece from Arizona's offensive room, and honestly, it makes perfect sense. With the Lions planning to lean heavily on tight ends under Petzing, there's one name that jumps out immediately: Ben Steele, the Cardinals' tight ends coach. And if Detroit wants that part of the offense to really pop, Steele might be the ideal guy to bring in. Look at the resume. Steele helped turn Trey McBride into a first-team All-Pro and one of the best tight ends in the entire league last season. That kind of development doesn't happen by accident. McBride went from promising young player to nightmare matchup for every defense, and Steele was right there shaping that growth. But this isn't some one-hit wonder coach. Steele's been around. He coached tight ends for the Buccaneers when they won Super Bowl LV, worked with Dan Quinn on the Falcons, and even spent time coaching offensive linemen for the Broncos and Vikings. The dude has real NFL mileage and understands both the trenches and the pass game, a rare combo that fits perfectly with what Petzing wants to build. And the connection matters. Steele and Petzing have already spent 3 seasons working together. They understand each other's system, language, and expectations. If Detroit really wants to run a heavy 12 and 13 personnel offense, which Petzing absolutely loves, bringing in the guy who already knows exactly how to maximize that structure is almost too logical. Sure, there are other names floating around: John Embry, Tim Kelly, Kevin Koger, all solid options, but none of them have the built-in chemistry with Petzing, nor the recent track record of transforming a tight end into a legitimate superstar. If the Lions want continuity, expertise, and someone who can elevate that position immediately, Steele is the cleanest fit. Now it's just a matter of whether Detroit decides to pull the trigger. With Tyler Rolle leaving for Iowa State, the role is wide open, and the Lions know how important this hire is for the identity of their new offense. We won't have to wait long to find out what they do next. If all these moves hit, Detroit's offense could look completely different next season, in a good way. But what do you think, Lions fans? Is this the right direction? Drop your take and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.